Hello, it is iYikKam time again. So since yesterday I released the YouTube on facing the reality of iYikKam, I have received many questions from our Wing Chun Queen friends asking different types of questions, and that's why I'm making this YouTube today. Hopefully after you watch this YouTube, you have a very clear view on what is going on, okay? And here on you'll be able to know the basic and be able to judge for yourself, what is actually going on and your own directions. Okay. So because today I have to tell you a lot of things, so I need to use my iPad and my notes, and so I would like to really go into details so that you'll be able to settle this issue once for all. Okay. So yesterday I am sharing on the really basic of Chinese martial arts on externally train the tendon and bones, internally train the breathing. Okay, so that is the common denominator of all martial arts, the basic bottom line, and it is simply biomechanics, which it has to be there, okay? Otherwise it doesn't make sense. That is just a very basic platform. Okay, and so what happens is that since I talk about tendons and bones and breathing, many friends who do weightlifting and different fitness exercise message me asking me, is that all? Well, it is not that all. That is just a very basic common denominator that is more on top to it. Okay, so this is where I want to share with you. So in order to share with you, I like to show you this thing first, so that you'll be able to understand what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is a hammer. Okay, this is a hammer, and this is a coil spring. Okay, so if we look at the characteristics of the power generations and power handling of hammer and coil spring, okay, we will have the following characteristics. Okay, now first of all, force is a force. Okay, as there's no difference if one get hit by a hammer or get propelled shoot by a coil spring. As soon as the amount of force is the same, getting hit by a hammer in the same force with the propel or hit by a coil spring has no difference. Okay, so that is force. As soon as this, if this 10 newtons of force from the hammer or 10 newton of force from the coil spring, make no difference. Okay, and however, we need to be careful here. The power handling or power generations of a hammer and a coil spring are different. Okay, so for the hammer, we know when it strike or hit, it is discrete 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. and it is, you see I tense my hand and it is rigid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, you see. So the power generation and power handling of this hammer is have this type of characteristics. Now, as for the spring, a coil spring, okay, coil spring, in order for me to generate power to shoot out the force, I have to deal with a continuous, see, this is a continuous, okay, type of the force handling versus this discrete 1, 2, 3. This is continuous. Okay, it's continuous there. Okay, and it is not rigid. Tensing my hand here, to hit the user's hammer. It is actually, the spring is really dynamic and flexible. Okay, so as you can see, this is discrete, rigid and tense handling and of a power generation type. This is a continuous and flexible of handling or generating power type. Okay, so they are different. Okay, this we need to really understand this. Okay, know this, the difference of this. Now, the hammer type of the power generations or power handling in Chinese, there's a term for it. It's called gang, or is translated usually as hard power. Okay, that is why I say gang or hard. Okay, H-A-R-D, hard. Now, for the spring type of power handling, okay, it is said, it is named as rou or flexible. Rou or flexible. So this is gang, hard, and this is rou, okay, which is flexible. So in Chinese, you always say gang rou, okay. Both have the force, but the power handling and the power generations are different. One is flexible type, one is hard type. Okay, and hard type is discrete, tense, rigid. The flexible type is continuous and dynamic, flexible. Okay, so that's different. Now, if you look at the thing what we talked about yesterday on externally train the bone, tendons, internally train the breathing. In order to have developed this type of power characteristic, power handling and power generation characteristic, and this type or this type, they are different. Okay, even though both have to go through training the externally training the bone and tendon, internally training the breathing, but this type of result and this type of result need to have different type of training. Okay, now if we talk about this hammer, a hammer, when it generates power or handle power, it strike. A strike is a strike. It just strike. Okay. As for the string, coil spring, okay, it deals with action and reaction force play. So the hammer, it is a strike. Is a strike. Is a discrete. It just rigidly and tensing is strike. But this one, it deals with action and reaction force. If you generate action force, you always have a reaction force. So in the spring type, we need to play with the action reaction force. As for this type, you don't care. You just hit, you just action. Okay? You don't care for the reaction and so forth, you just hit. So the body and the skill, the body conditioning and the skill of developing this externally train the bone and tendon and muscle, and internally train the breathing, they will be different. Okay. This one, if I have a strong muscle, that's it. This one, I have to be able to sense the action reaction force and be able to have a continuous fine handling. Okay, so say for this coil spring type of power handling, okay, power generation type, then it is a continuous play of action and reaction force, continuous sensing and handling. It is a play at all instants. Okay. Now, as for the hammer, it is hammering and it deals with the projectile. Right? It's a projectile because you have to move this hammer. This one is like it can be closed like that, and while we compress it, load or unload it, is the action reaction force is always there. It doesn't have to move. Okay, and for this one you have to move. Okay, so they are different. Now, so in terms of this spring type, there's a term called Jing in Mandarin, in Chinese, and we translate as force flow. Okay, so what is force flow? So force flow is actually defined as the handling of action and reaction force at every instant. So force flow is defined as the handling of action and reaction force at every instance. That's what force flow is about. Okay, and for the hammer, we know that we don't do that. We just handling the trajectory. The trajectory of the hammer. Okay, and this is have action reaction force. This doesn't care. It's just action force, action. It doesn't care for other thing. Okay, so the spring type, we know it has to handle action and reaction force, so you'll be able to sense the action force and reaction force, and it play with action reaction force all the time at every instance. Now, the breathing in this spring type of power generations and handling, since it is playing with the force flow or action reaction force, it use breathing to refine the handling of the force flow in the human body. Okay, so if one is developing the type or the skill of the spring type of art, so one is playing with the force flow, right? And one further using the breathing to refine this force flow handling. And then one even go as far as using the chi flow channel to further refine the force flow. Okay, So that's where the three flow, the force flow, the breathing flow, and the chi flow channel come into picture, the three flow. As for the hammer type, it doesn't have that. Okay, the breathing is just a breathing. You still for sure need the breathing, but it is not as refined as continuous handling as the force flow, breathing flow, and the chi channel flow type. Okay. So what happens is on the breathing and the chi flow is because breathing actually influence the chi flow, and the chi flow influence the breathing. Okay, and because of the chi flow and the force flow influence the biomechanics, which is going to influence the force flow. Okay, so all these three flows are actually synchronized or intertwined together. And if you look at this, you see that like for example, this is the three yin meridians from the chest to the finger, in the inside of the arm, and at exhale, it is actually flow. The chi channels flowing this way. Okay. So in order to handle the force flow in a refined way and keeping refined, one has to obey that. So what happens if one don't obey that and one play with this rigid type or hammer type of power handling? If one do that, that means one not be able to sense the action and reaction force at different part of the body. Okay, and thus it cannot handle things in a smooth and continuous way, a flexible way. It is discrete, like this one is the on and off. Okay, on and off, on and off, on, off, instead of this is always on by just keeping playing with the action reaction force. Okay, so that's the difference there. Okay, and so again, whether one is developing this type of art, the spring type of art, or the hammer type of art, the externally training the tendon and bones, internally training the breathing are different. Okay, the guy who do this, develop this type of art, it can only on and off, tense or loose up, tense or loose up. As for this guy, at all the time it has to be loose, flexible, and be able to sense and be able to play with the action reaction force and be able to use the breathing and the chi flow channel to refine it. And as for the hammer type, it just exhale or inhale, whatever. Okay, just generate the power and to strike it. So this is the difference. Okay, now so in Chinese, this type is called hard style or external style. Okay, the spring type is called soft style and internal art. So this is external art, this is internal art. It's internal because it's play with action and reaction force at every instant, which is the force flow, and it has the breathing to refine the force flow, and you have using the chi channel to further refine it. So that's why they call internal. As for this, is this you don't pay that much attention. It's just on off, on off, on off. Okay, and the breathing is just on off there. It of course is matter how much volume of the breathing, but as how the breathing handle, it's different than this. In the spring type, you handle the volume. You also handle how the flow of the breathing, how the conditions. It's not just on off. So it's just, this one is just like a light. You turn on or turn off the light. This one is like you can dim the light. Okay, so this is internal art. This is soft style. This is external art. This is hard style. That's what it means. Okay. Now, for the soft style, because it involved in handling the breathing and the force flow and the chi channel flow, it turns out that it be able to promote circulation, blood circulations of the human body, and the internal organ massaging and oxygen distribution and so forth. Okay, so the soft art or internal art is known to be able to practice to get the body more healthy or to heal the body. Okay, now as for the hard art, it doesn't have that characteristic. It just use it on and off, on and off. Okay, so for hundreds of years and thousands of years, the hard style usually it is only belongs to the young, healthy person. People after 40 years old is not going to practice that because the body cannot take it. Okay. So it's very dissipative. The hard style is very dissipative. As for the soft style, it's not dissipative. It actually reuse the energy and it actually be able to help the body to circulate, to function better. And this is just used and very dissipative. Okay, so it's very draining. Okay, now, so the soft style or the internal art, one need the 6-13-3 to be able to see the basic. Otherwise, one not be able to play because there's a lot of details inside there. For example, the body, physical body. One need to know. One cannot say, "Oh yeah, I just want to be loose my body or get flexible." Well, that's a definition. One need to open up the joints, and then one be able to how to link it and move it so that it's light and so forth. That's the reason I wrote the book here. So it has everything there down there, and also the breathing. For example, the breathing have different states there. Okay, so when we want to use the breathing to refine the sensings and the handling of the action-reaction force, that is not just on and off, inhale, exhale. No, you have to know different type of the breathing state of the body and develop that. Okay, so I extract all this thing and make the common denominator. The common denominator 6-13-3 is for that. So one be able to be systematically, comprehensively study and understand what is going on there, and the details need to be handled. Otherwise, one really don't know how to handle. Say, well, handle breathing, handle channel, chi channel. So what are they? Okay. So all these things need to be handled. Okay. Now, so we know there's hard style and there's a soft style. Okay. and it's clearly defined here. It's not just my interpretation or anybody's interpretation. It is what it is there. Okay, you can look at the track record in the China, or the characteristics of this type of art. They have this kind of characteristics. Okay, and now if we look at the Wing Chun Queen, so what style is this? Well, we know the first thing Wing Chun is very popular with is what? Chi Sao, listening. Okay, so what is listening? When we talk about listening, for sure we're listening to action, reaction, force. Right away, that brings us into the soft style and internal art. We like it or not? Because a hammer type have no concern of action, reaction, force. You cannot sense. Okay? And also Wing Chun is famous on short power. This one you need a trajectory. Okay? You need to have a trajectory. You need to have a space and time to do the strike. The spring type, it can be here, and it dealing with action, reaction, force. So close, okay? Close to my arm. If this is my target, it can be this close, and still be able to inject force in. Action, reaction, force. That's how they play. That's what the inch power is. Meaning is, you need only really small distance. That's where the close body can be function with this kind of power or force. If it is this type of thing, hammer, I have to have a distance here, pull back a distance and hit or strike. I need to have this distance. I cannot do it close. I don't have sense. So this is hard style. Wing Chun is not a hard style. It's an internal style. Okay, it's an internal style. Because of sensing, and Chi Sao is the sensing play. Force flow, momentum, you sense that, you play with it. Okay, now. So we know that the Wing Chun's sensing, inch power, and close body actually has to have the spring type of power in order to satisfy that. Okay, and if we look at where the Wing Chun technology is from, we always heard the legend of the snake and the crane fusion making Wing Chun, right? Well, the snake is the snake engine, because the spring, okay, the coil spring, you need the action, reaction, force handling, okay? That need a snake engine. And for the wide crane, what is supplied to Wing Chun is the center line or center axis control. Okay. And as for the snake engine, we know that it is by the writing of the 1840 iYikKam Queen. It is from the snake engine. So the snake slide worm move, you see, is actually playing with what? Playing with airy joints, meaning externally training the bone and tendons in a really flexible way, which is be able to handle the action and reaction force, and since it's not rigid, it be able to sense. And because it is a handling of the action and reaction force or the force flow, okay, it used the breathing to refine this force flow handling and using the chi channel, such as this one or this one or the full body, to refine it. Okay, so the snake slide worm move is that type of technology. Okay? So the three flow, the force flow, the breathing flow, the chi flow, it is there in the snake slide worm move. So when we do our Xiulin Tao, okay, when we do our Xiulin Tao, that is where it is. Okay? So, okay. Even though we say externally train the tendon and bone, internally train the breathing, okay, it is not the hammer type. This is the spring type of training in Xiulin Tao. Okay? So if you look at the older Xiulin Tao like iYikKam, iYikKam, you always have this. Okay? That's what it is. And if we train it that way, the result will be different than if I do like the wide crane Sanjin, tense my arm, or the Fujian Ngozo art, where you tense your art, or shaking and what do you call it, disconnect, or those kind of stuff. It's a different type of stuff. Because spring type, it always has to be continuous, flexible, and it always has to be playing with action-reaction force. Okay? So that is how Wing Chun technology based on, okay, or where it is come from. Okay. Now, so if you look into the Xiulin Tao set, for example, you know, just take this Fuk Sao, okay, this Fuk Sao in Xiulin Tao. People, at the minute, if you see people doing this, you know this is no longer a spring type or the soft up anymore. Why? Because this joint, wrist joint, is locked. Once you lock that, no matter what you do, there's no way to sense the action and reaction force anymore. In fact, one is producing one self-generated force here to block the sensing of action and reaction force. So the real thing, which is if you want to handle the action reaction force, this cannot be locked. So this one, you lock the action reaction force, you lock the chi flow, and thus your breathing flow is locked there too. That cannot be a internal art. That is external art or hard style. Internal art has to be this way, because only those type of training can train one to develop the handling of the force flow or action and reaction force at every instance. And that applies to all the joints of the body, the whole body. So this is just an example. So for example, if you do this Yatam Sang Fuk, this Fuk Sao, and then you just doing this, and then you just hold on to the elbow, clamp your knee, doing this, it's gone. It become a hard style. Why? No way one can handle a action and reaction force or sense action and reaction force there, because you jam that thing whole up. It's no longer become this. It become this type of stuff. On-off type of stuff. On-off or push hard. It's not this, where you can play with it. Flexible. It's not flexible. Right? So if you talk about Xiulin Tao, internal art. If we don't talk about the action-reaction force, if we don't talk about the breathing and the chi flow channel, it cannot be internal art. Disregard how I want to think it. Well, I can use my mind to hammer, using my mind, my intention to focus and to hammer. But no matter what, the mind will not give me that handling like a spring, right? And not to mention that there's no handling or refinement with the force flow, the chi flow channel and the breathing. Okay. So this is the fact. If you train in this way, you will not get this way. Okay? It's a different stuff. And the application of this thing, which is can go do close body, inch punch sensing, force flow handling, is not this thing. This cannot do close body handling because you cannot nail a thing this way. You have to have this thing, the trajectory. Okay? So, hopefully this YouTube explains clearly what's going on here. And not just saying externally training the bone and tendons, internally train the breathing means everything. No, you need to know this type or this type, and either this type or this type, it train the bone, muscle or tendons and breathing differently. Okay, so today I want to leave you with this. And so with the previous YouTube on facing the reality of iYikKam and this YouTube, you'll be able to see a big picture as how you want to practice your Wing Chun or your Xiu Lim Tao. That's up to your freedom. But what I'm presenting you here is a reality. It's biomechanics. It's Chinese traditional martial arts. And it is based on physics. It is not my interpretations. It's just descriptions in a system and a systematic, organized way to show you what it is without going through your interpretation, my interpretation. It's boiled down to this. Okay?